Hi there. My name is Dylan Monk, and I am here for Assignment 10 Reflection. This semester, I chose to work with Denver Food Rescue, a local nonprofit that rescues food from grocery stores and wholesale distributors and redistributes it to at-risk and low-income communities in the city. I was particularly drawn to them because of their method for transporting the food. They use bicycles and trailers almost exclusively. There's lots of little sort of enclaves where they cache these bicycles and trailers, and you can check in with resident agency or wherever they're parked. Sometimes there's a code to the lock to unlock them, and you get to take a bike out for a spin for a good cause. It's terrific exercise. It was really meaningful for me and important to those whom receive the food. I worked with Turner Wyatt, the executive director, and my interactions began just spectacular. Incredibly friendly, enthusiastic, admirable character. I really liked him. I took to him pretty quickly. All of our interactions were very informal. We met in what could be described as a shared dormitory living space. They rent an office from the green spaces, cohabitating workplaces. So as such, when we met there, we would just, get coffee and sit on a shared couch. It seemed incredibly formal, but the discussions were punctuated and fun. We got right down to brass tacks and talked about, aspirations and existing programs, and he was very responsive and helpful with all of my questions. I would recommend working with him. It was fun. However, a few drawbacks were the scope of the programs that I was directed to. My directives were sort of fuzzy and vast. It went anywhere from evaluating existing programs to funding imaginary ones through leveraging privately owned, an organization that he owns with funds from a nonprofit to a for-profit. It's just kind of cloudy and not illegal, not wrong, but just incredibly confusing to channel funds through two imaginary sources. And then the amount of detail that he was requiring went way beyond what I could imagine as outcomes or even inputs. Sometimes on the particular level of the specific breakdown of every single person that they're serving and manicuring the scope to each individual, which, they work with hundreds and hundreds of people, and it would have been just incredibly difficult to track down people who might not want to interact with me, just because of the nature of the people and the programs where I was operating in. So in that regard, many of my questions were answered very timely and quick, but not incredibly complete, and just often led to more unanswerable questions. My relationship with them was great. I really enjoyed it, but again, just difficult to follow through on some of these questions. For funding, I used GuideStar and the foundation that we were granted access to and started looking for anything relative to food and at-risk communities. I found the Schlesman Family Foundation, which had incredibly clear and concise guidelines, an informal structure. They just asked for a letter and contact, and if they considered you for a project, you would follow through with a formal letter, and it outlined all of the specifics that they were looking for. Project details, mission history, accolades, budget, etc. I learned a lot from this assignment. I really enjoyed it. Particularly, I learned that I worked much better in groups. I ran 2 simultaneous grant proposals. I was working with the City of Denver Public Works on a Safe Routes to School, which is incredibly arduous and much more detailed than the private foundation that I was applying for with Denver Food Rescue. And having a team is so fundamentally driving for me. I thrive on the reaction of others and seeing what they're interested in and how they're motivated and what I can do to fulfill any gaps in that way was really fun. Working with Denver Food Rescue is sort of like an independent, flying by the seat of my pants, trying to nail down the project scope, but which was a moving target the entire time. In retrospect, I probably could have done it better or just illuminated my intentions more and said, this is the project that I'm willing to help you with. If you have all of these other unanswerable questions, it would be difficult for me to work them into a logic model, and I would rather not include them in the scope for this grant, which is what I ultimately did. Any other insights I had were that I still love bicycles and alternate transportation, and I think that they are universally apparent and will be of pressing concern depending on how at-risk communities evolve. The merit's always going to be there, the need is always going to be there, and I think that they have highlighted my process forward for developing my own nonprofit that will be will feature multimodal implementation and infrastructure projects. But more on that later. Okay, take care.